Can you tell us who you are and when and where you were born?
I am Janice Kyle. I was Janice Murray, and I was born in Seaforth in 1964.
And what county were you a junior farmer member of?
I started off in Huron County, and then I went to Waterloo and finished in Brant.
Okay. How did you first get involved in junior farmers?
I think it was just a continuation of 4-H. It was something I always wanted to do. How I really got involved with junior farmers was I was sick actually, and I was in the hospital and kind of lost at the time. And my president and PD at the time from the Seaforth Club came and visited me at the hospital, and I was like, yeah, that's what I really want to get involved in. So I did, and the rest is history. I still feel like junior farmers is in my blood today.
Do you remember what your first event was?
I remember what my first big event was, my big first provincial event, and that was going to Thunder Bay to March Conference.
And you were there as a delegate for Huron?
I was there as a delegate from here, and it was excellent. It was longer than a weekend. I think we went up on, like, it was almost a week-long event, and it was just, I don't know if there ever was or will be a March Conference ever like that again, because they flew us all up and we stayed in the hotel, and it was quite a leadership experience. And so I met all kinds of people, and they were very inspiring. So then I continued to get involved and really wanted to become a provincial director because of that.
Okay. Keeping with the early years, what sort of activities did you do in the Seaforth Club?
I played broomball. Loved to play broomball. We did it a couple times a week and went to many tournaments. I was very active in square dancing. We used to love to go to Sing Swing. We were also part of Huron County Choir, and then we joined with the Bruce County Choir, and we actually had the opportunity to sing for the Queen, and that was probably one of my biggest highlights.
In Canada or in the United Kingdom?
No, she was in Canada. She was here for the bicentennial celebrations, and we got to go down there. We were invited to sing as a Mass Junior Farmer Choir to sing there.
How many clubs were there in Huron County at the time?
5. There was a Seaforth Club, a Clinton Club, South Huron, a West Huron, and like a Lucknow or North Huron Club. Oh, actually, there was a Howick Club too. Maybe there was 6, but Howick soon after that folded.
How many members were there in the Seaforth Club?
There was over 200. I'm going to say about 220.
How many members in the county?
Sorry, I lied. There was 220 in the county. Seaforth itself was the biggest club, I believe, with close to 100.
And what sort of community projects or outreach projects did Seaforth do?
Community projects. We worked a lot with the Fair Board, I remember, just helping them a lot. We did roadside cleanup. We adopted a road and helped clean up a road. And then we always, participated in the provincial fundraiser at the time. That was whatever it was for the year. I don't really remember others.
How did the Seaforth Club work with the other clubs within the county?
Yep. So each club had their own executive, and then so some members just stayed active within their club, and then others partook more within the county. And so, like myself, I went to county meetings and I sat and did stuff at the county level, but others chose not to. But within the county, all clubs would participate in, we might have a tournament, or we might, Seaforth's big thing every year is we had a big baseball tournament. So everybody from, different areas came to that. And I helped organize that. But within the county, all the clubs worked together and got along.
And how did the community feel about Seaforth Club?
I think for the most part, they really liked it. I know my parents really encouraged me to become involved. There were those that felt that we were a drinking club. However, in my opinion, it was a great place for young people to go and meet other people that were like-minded. And got to participate in many different events, whether it was cultural or sports or agricultural, and we all had kind of the same mindset. Made a lot of good friends.
And how did you go from the Seaforth Club to Waterloo as a member?
So I was working at the Stratford Hospital at the time, but I was only ever getting contracts. I was never getting hired on full time. And I had went to provincial leadership camp with Susan Hondrick from Waterloo, and we became really good friends. And I became good friends with her sister Kathy as well. And the two of us, I would come down to their place often and just hang out. So I got to know a lot of the Waterloo members. And then Kathy knew of a job opening in Guelph at Ignatius College for the Ontario Soil and Crop Improvement Association. So I applied and got that job. So then I moved down to Guelph with Kathy. But even though we were in Guelph, because she was a part of Waterloo, we ended up going to the Waterloo Junior Farmer Club all the time. And then her and I ended up sharing a house with Ron Detweiler in Winterburn. And so we were just always a part of that whole Waterloo group.
And how many, was there just the one club in Waterloo at the time?
Yes.
And how many members were in the club?
I don't know. I would say there was probably about 30 that were active, but there was probably more than that. I'm not really sure the actual number of the Waterloo Club.
Where did the club meet?
They met at the OMAF office on Weaver Street in Waterloo.
Take us through a typical year of Waterloo Junior Farmers, their activities.
So they were also involved with broomball, so we got to go broomball often in the winter time. Friday nights was always volleyball. We would come to Waterloo Oxford High School and play volleyball. Sunday nights in Kitchener we had ball hockey in the summer, so that was always fun. We enjoyed always putting something in Culturama, so we often did a play for Culturama, so that was a real bonding thing as well in the winter time. And then of course we would attend together, we would attend winter games, and one time in February we had a trip to Quebec and we went to the Quebec Winter Carnival. I think that's what it's called, the Bonhomme Carnival. So that was a really good time. March Conference, Culturama was in April, and we always participated heavily in summer games. And then Sing Swing. Waterloo wasn't as active in Sing Swing, but we still did, our things. Like a lot of us, would sing or play the piano or whatever. I don't believe ever square dancing with Waterloo. But certainly, Wasaga Beach in the summertime for the broomball tournament, and we usually got together 2-3 times a week as a group of friends. We still get together today often.
What made Waterloo Junior Farmers?
The friendships. There was so many strong friendships. It's just, it didn't matter what we were doing together, because I'm not that great at sports, but I enjoyed every minute of it anyway because it was so fun to get together with them. Something else I missed saying was that we always held an Oktoberfest dance, and so that was our October big thing to look forward to, and it was always at the same time as Oktoberfest, so people would drive from, hours away to come to Waterloo's Oktoberfest dance. But there are some friendships that I have made in Waterloo Junior Farmers that will never, I have never yet been matched to what I have, we still get together several times a year. Christmas, we always have a thing, Mennonite Relief Sale. We always get together, September long weekend. We always see these friends over and over because they're just such close friendships that we make sure we get together and they'll never be lost. And there was a lot of weddings through Junior Farmers that, a lot of my friends married someone within the club, so that's really cool too. Yeah, it was a really good time.
What community projects or outreach projects do you remember the club doing?
Bucks and a Bug. That was an awesome brainchild of Craig Martin's. He took an old Volkswagen Beetle and we painted it green, and it was for the Canadians. guide dogs, and we filled it with change. And I think, I'm not sure about the exact numbers, but I think it was over $8,000 worth of change, and we took it around to, you know, a couple different malls, and we brought it to March Conference, and everybody just brought their buckets of change. And then, of course, I was living with Kathy Hondrick at the time, and it all came back to our townhouse and got layered out on our living room floor for us to wrap. Well, it's a lot of money to roll, but in the end, it was such a great experience for everybody. They were pretty active, just trying to raise money again for the provincial charities and helping with that.
What did the Canadian guide dogs do with that money?
I believe they were there to help purchase the dogs for the people that couldn't see, to help them have the dogs. And they had like, they were based out of Ottawa at the time, and they had a beautiful place there to train these dogs, and then, you know, gave them to other people to train for these people who couldn't see, so that they could have, you know, help have a set of eyes for people who were blind.
And then you went on to Brant.
I did.
And you finished up there?
I did. I married my husband, who was a Brant County junior farmer, and happy to say that we have 4 children, 2 of whom are provincial director and assistant provincial director in Brant now, and carrying on the family tradition of being in junior farmers. I know Peter's parents were involved in junior farmers, and have met many people who, you know, I first met back in Thunder Bay, who are now involved in the community in Brant. And Marilyn Sewell was one of them, because I remember I sat at her table. Each provincial director had a round table, and Marilyn was my PD at my table, and she lives like 2 miles from me, so it's kind of ironic how that all works out. And Brant County Junior Farmers is doing a pretty good job now of holding things together, and it's really nice to see. A lot of those people that are in their club now are past junior farmers' kids. It's kind of neat to see.
What did Brant do as activities and to help the community?
They as well really worked a lot with the Paris Fair, and I know that they did anything that the Paris Fair would ask them. So whether that be, you know, doing benches or garbage pickup or whatever, they've always helped. You know, that was like one of their big community betterment projects, was helping with the Paris Fair.
Now, you mentioned the Thunder Bay March Conference.
Mm-hmm.
How long after that before you became provincial director?
Trying to remember, that was in '84. I went to provincial leadership camp in '85, and then I think in '86 was when I became provincial director. So, yeah, just kind of got right involved in after that. So, I guess 2 years.
And where did you go for provincial meetings?
All over the province, wherever the event was being held. So counties would have to put in bids to host an event, and so the January meeting was always held at the past president's home, like not home county would host it, and then we got billeted out, and then March Conference was wherever March Conference was that year. It was usually in a bigger city. The March Conferences were like in Toronto or Ottawa, that kind of thing. And then we would have one with Culturama, and then in the summer would be in Guelph, and then wherever Sing Swing was, that held that year. One of the things I meant to mention too was one of the activities Waterloo did that was always fun was their plays. Their plays were fantastic, and they would raise money by putting these plays on, and that was their cultural thing, because they weren't involved in Sing Swing, but they really always did an amazing play every year. And I used to help direct that often, and we had a really good time with that.
What events were plays done at?
Well, it was always done for Culturama, but we would, and that was always in April, so we would do one for parents or neighbors or whatever, and we would make it somewhat of a fundraiser for them to be able to see it.
So there's one held in Waterloo.
Yeah. Actually, Culturama, Waterloo hosted Culturama one year as well. That was really fun. I helped organize that.
As a provincial director, what kind of discussions, or what topics of discussions were at the board table?
Now you're testing my memory. I've been on so many boards. A lot about policies and procedures, and at the time when I was provincial director, it was kind of, it was just after the switchover with OMAF, so we had a lot of, staff, like Sue Visser had nicely just started. I'm trying to think back. Like, I remember the switchover. Do you know the year that the switchover happened? OMAF was involved, like it was in the 80s.
Talk about what switchover was.
Well, the switchover was at OMAF, like we were totally under OMAF's wing, and like, I mean, we had, we had OMAF staff helping us with everything. So like in Huron County, Richard Hamilton was our rural organization specialist. And so they were a great support in keeping those clubs together and active and moving. And it was huge because we then had to come up, I mean, although OMAF still helped us financially, we had to, find maybe office space, or we had to hire, provincially, we had to hire our own secretary. It went from having Nancy Larmer, who was our secretary manager with OMAF, to Sue Visser, who we hired ourselves. And so I know it was in the 80s because I know that I worked with Nancy as an OMAF, and then I worked with Sue, who was our own employee, but I'm just not sure exactly of the time. But it was a big undertaking for junior farmers to have to be their own entity then, and set up, sponsorship committees, and set up, basically be on their own 2 feet without that support. But they've managed to do it, and I'm pretty proud because it's a tough job. Like being on the provincial 4-H, like they held on to 4-H longer, but it was a little bit easier for them because we had bigger players being able to be on the sponsorship committee. They weren't, they weren't young people. They were, we have a foundation that's got some big names that used to be or heads of companies and that. So I'm pretty proud of junior farmers for what they've been able to accomplish.
Who were the presidents during your time on the board?
Well, through my time would have been, there was Jim Wirt and Sandra Quayle, Susie Hilt Stanley, Scott Kelman.
What kind of leader or president was Jim Wirt?
Fantastic. He made sure everybody was involved. He got to know the members. He gave fantastic leadership, just really fantastic. Well, they all were. I mean, in order to be able to get there, they provided fantastic leadership. I think that the key was that they got to know everybody that they could.
Okay. Sandra Quayle, what kind of person was she, and what did she bring to the table?
She was extremely smart. She organized a really strong meeting and kept everybody on track. And again, just involvement of members. She would try and get to meet people, and I think that's a huge thing to make everybody feel welcome.
Let's hear about Susie Hilt Stanley.
Oh, Alan Cole too. Um, uh, she was great too. I mean, they all brought their own vibe to the board, but they all, you know, some of them brought their organization skills, and Sandra, or Susie was extremely organized and kept everybody on track, and yeah. Alan was between Sandra and Susie, and Alan was just so much fun. Like, he brought fun. Like, everybody wanted to go because he was just so welcoming, and he'd have everybody down east, and he wanted to make sure that the east was alive and well in junior farmers.
I think you mentioned Scott too.
Yeah, Scott Gilmore. I worked really closely with Scott, actually, because he was March Conference, like he was the chair of March Conference when I was March Conference coordinator, and we work really well together. He's so easy to get along with, and he's so easy to get to know. Like, everybody enjoyed getting to know him, and he just just made sure that, like, he got out there and met people and made them feel welcome. And yeah.
You mentioned Nancy Larmer.
Yes.
Was she secretary treasurer when you were on the board, or was she already left?
I believe she was there for the first year, and
What did she bring to junior farmers, and what was her job?
so she was like the secretary manager from OMAF. Oh man, Nancy was extremely organized, extremely bubbly, extremely friendly. Just, she brought so much to the board. She kept all of us on track and kept all of us organized. Yeah, she was fantastic.
Were you part of the hiring process for Sue Fizzer?
I was there. I wasn't part of the hiring process, no. I was there, like, on the board when they made the motions or whatever, but I wasn't, like, part of the interview team or whatever.
And what was Sue's role, and what did Sue bring to junior farmers?
So she was the secretary, and her job was to keep our books and keep us organized and send out meeting notices. She was our first person to be able to fill that role, so it was a bit of a trial and error for everybody, and she did a great job while she was there.
Is there anyone else from the provincial board, or any other stories from the provincial board you'd like to touch on?
I don't know, there's so many people.
Okay.
But, I mean, I guess, you know, highlights for me were the travel exchanges, like, and the presidents threw out that too, like, I remember Paul Nairn and Kelly Allen really well. They brought fantastic leadership. I remember one time, this really has nothing to do with anybody in particular, well, it was Shirley Steed. But I had just had my third daughter, Emily, who's now 17 in a couple months, and she's our assistant PD in Brant, but she was just born, like literally her birthday is March 7th, and they needed someone to come and do parliamentary procedure and do the counting of the ballots for March Conference, and it happened to be in Brantford that year. Emily was literally like a week or two old, and I had graduated from junior farmers at that point, so they really wanted me to come and do it. And like, I had a newborn, like literally. But I went and did it, and I mean, that was Emily's first taste of junior farmers, and she was literally 2 weeks old. But Shirley, like, literally walked her around the entire March Conference so I could do all the processes involved. It was kind of fun. I mean, that was my last March Conference as doing anything particular. Probably the highlight of my March conferences or anything was the year I won my trip to UK. That was pretty exciting. And my favorite March conference had to have been, I believe it was 1988. It was in Toronto. It might have been 89. That was the year that I was conference coordinator, and that was such a fun year, just for me personally.
Okay, let's touch with that, stick with that. What was the job or the tasks at hand of the conference coordinator?
Making sure that everything ran smoothly, making sure that all the rooms were booked, making sure that all the food was ordered, making sure that all the delegate registrations were in, that they all got their delegate packages, helping just with I was a go-to person for making sure that the conference itself ran smoothly. Like, they all had tasks, but I was the person who coordinated them all together, making sure that, you know, people were getting paid and the conference delegates were all comfortable and enjoying the conference. And I believe everybody had a great year that year. And it was the first time they'd had a coordinator, so it was a learning experience, but I believe everything went out smoothly. So we had Ann Snyder and Kathy McIntosh were on my committee, and are on that committee, and they were so good, and they made up all these little they were like hugs, and so they were little pieces of, I don't know, like, well, they weren't felt, but they were like a ball of, and everybody got a hug. So everybody was hugging all weekend, and it was really cute, because you were supposed to give people hugs, and so that was part of the conference. It was just fun.
And then going back to the conference you first talked about in Thunder Bay, who paid for those planes?
I have no idea. Not us. I'm guessing a sponsor must have. Yeah, I would never have been able to go. I mean, we paid a registration, but whether it was the city of Thunder Bay to get us there, whether it was an air flight, I don't know. They must have a sponsor of some sort.
How different was it going to Thunder Bay? That was one of the first March conferences outside of Toronto and Guelph.
It was fabulous, and I mean, the numbers weren't as big. Like you might not have had 300 at the conference. You might have only had 200. I don't know what the numbers were, but I believe we had the whole hotel to ourselves, and we all became a big family. Like, got to know so many people, and I look back at those pictures still and go, I remember that, and yeah, it was really good.
Okay. Moving on to exchanges. Your first trip was in 1986.
Mm-hmm. To Indiana.
What was in Indiana?
Indiana, there was 4 of us went, and we had a fabulous time. I stayed with 2 host families, and we just had so much fun. I think the highlight was the Indiana State Fair. I'll never forget going. They said, oh yeah, we're just going to go to the fair. Well, I'm thinking, New Hamburg Fair, Paris Fair, Seaforth Fair size, not thinking that Indiana would be huge, and that we were just going to go see a quartet. Okay, we'll go see a quartet that happened to be Alabama. So it was quite a okay. It was really, really good. Yeah, it was quite a highlight, because I loved Alabama, and I had no expectations of going to something in the States that was going to be quite that big at that time of my life.
How long of an exchange was it?
2 weeks.
What program was it with down in Indiana?
Young farmers, I believe. Is that what they called them? don't know. Do they still have Young Farmers? Do you know? Yeah. I'm sure it was Young Farmers. Yeah, because I went on a 4-H exchange to Michigan, so I don't want to mix the two up. But I'm pretty sure it was a Young Farmers program. But I don't know if they have it down there anymore. I haven't read much about it.
And what else did you do on the exchange?
Well, basically went to their homes and learned how their way of farming, and they had like a couple different get-togethers where we kind of all got together, and I'd meet other members of the club.
Who were the other 3 that went with you?
Bob Armstrong, and I don't remember. Do you know?
How did you get down there?
We drove.
JFAO pay for that?
Possibly, yeah. I know we drove. It's not that far.
How did you get chosen?
Through an interview process. You used to apply for your trips, I think by the end of December, and then at Winter Games there was interviews, and then you'd find out at Merch Conference who was going on the different trips.
And then in 91 you had another opportunity.
I got to go to the United Kingdom for 3 months. That was fabulous. I went with Danny Hodgins and Darlene McCallum and Erin Cahill, and we spent a month in Scotland and a month in England and a month in Ireland. Many of the people that I ended up staying with were people who had already been here on exchange. So that was nice, but it was also really nice meeting new people. Many of those people I'm still in contact with today. We send Christmas cards and are in contact through Facebook, and it's kind of neat to see them grow over the years as well.
Did you have a chaperone?
No.
How did you get chosen for that trip?
Same idea. I had to go through an interview process. We had to apply by the end of December, and we got interviewed in February and then got announced in March. And it was pretty exciting to be able to go to the UK exchange, and it's something I'll always remember. And I think because I have a love of exchanges, now my kids have a love of exchanges. I think I've instilled that in them because I still talk about it all the time, how many years later. So my oldest has been to Sweden, my second's been to France, and she's going to Jamaica, and my oldest 2 have been to Alberta, and my youngest 2 are going to Alberta, like all on exchanges this year. And in fact, I think my oldest is applying for the UK exchange this year, so we'll see. It's pretty exciting.
Who paid for the UK trip? Or how was it funded? Okay.
No, I'm trying to think back. It's bugging me because I can think there was definitely a company with Indiana. I can even see the name, but I can't. It's not coming to me. But the UK exchange.
UCO?
Yes. Thank you. Yes, it was United Cooperatives of Ontario. Sorry, I just drew a blank. But I think it was a company with the Indiana exchange was in Canada, but the Canada wasn't around back then. It's a company that's maybe not around anymore, but it was like it wasn't DuPont, but it was one of those companies that used to sponsor it. Yes, United Cooperatives of Ontario used to sponsor the UK exchange. I guess they've been doing it forever.
How did you get over to the United Kingdom, and how did you come back?
Fly.
Fly both? Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
What all did you get to visit in the UK? What all did you get to do for those 3 months?
Oh, a lot of it would be because you spend like a week at each of your host families. You tended to see what was in their area. So many castles, because everybody had a castle in their area. Many distilleries, because of there was many distilleries in the area. Probably some of the highlights would be the Royal Highland Show. I went to the one in Scotland. There's also a Highland Show in England, but I went to the one in Scotland. That was excellent. It was so well run. I just said to my husband this week, we need to start saving money because when we turn 25 years married, which is only in 2 years, I said, I want to take you over there for that. So that's how big of a memory it is. And I've done a lot of traveling, but that's where I want to take him because he's really not been off the farm. And of course I got to see, you know, London, England and Stonehenge and Robin Hood and like that Sherwood Forest and Ireland, the Giant's Causeway, the Carrick Creek Rope Bridge. But it's not so much about what you do, it's the people you meet. Like, I mean, honestly, and I try to stress this about kids when they have exchanges, like it doesn't matter how much you do with them really. Like, yes, they'll remember going to the CN Tower, but it's all about what you do with them to have a good time and make those memories as a person. It's all about the people, and those will live on forever.
What did you learn about their youth program?
It's very active. It's especially like the young farmers, like they between Scotland and Ireland, they go back and forth quite a bit together. England not so much, but I was amazed at how much Scotland and Ireland will do things with each other, like their bigger events, or they get along really, really well. And you're there in the summer, and I think a lot of their event stuff might happen during the winter. So again, it was more like learning about the people and learning about the families.
And how did their organization differ from Junior Farmers?
I don't believe it did a whole lot. Not that
How is it funded?
I have no idea.
And leadership camp. You had the opportunity twice to go to leadership camp.
Well, yes. Now, there were two different leadership camps because, well, the first one was your provincial leadership camp, and then the second one was they took on a different twist. It was more like a leadership and action program. It did change. The first one was truly like provincial leadership camp with your how it worked with, well, I guess that's when it was still funded by OMAF the first time I went. And so, you know, that's when you had your I want to say your admiral and your ships, but
Not clans?
thank you. I'm thinking 4-H. I know I'm going, this is wrong. Yes, it was your clans. And so but then the second time we went, it took a twist off of, it was still funded by OMAF, like they still helped sponsor it, but they took it off of leadership in action. So it was kind of like a mini camp for agriculture, advanced agriculture leadership program. So the format had changed. And they were both held at Bark Lake. They were both excellent. I made tons and tons of friends the first time I went. The second time I went, it was a true growing opportunity. Like, it pushed my limits in my leadership skills. Because I was young, and I was very impressionable in the first one. And I was just wowed by it. By the second time I'd gone, had done a lot of things, and so I expanded more maturely there because they made me find the areas in me that were weak, and that's kind of where they, like for instance, high ropes. Like they made me do high ropes, and that is an area that, oh my goodness, don't make me do that, right? Whereas I don't mind speaking in front of people, so that wasn't, but they would find places where you could expand your comfort zones in whatever area of you were weak in.
How long were they?
First one was definitely a week. Second one wasn't that long. It was maybe four days or 5 days. But they were definitely different. So that's why I went the second time, because I knew they were different.
How did you get picked the first time?
First time I had to go through an interview at the OMAF level. Had to go to the Clinton office and be recommended by our ROS, and there were people vying for it to be able to go. Yeah. Weird.
Do you remember who you went with from here on?
Steve Webster. I don't, other than that.
And was leadership camp all the expenses covered?
Yeah. For the first one. I don't think that's the second one.
And how did you travel to Bark Lake? How did you get there?
Bus. We met a bus.
Everyone met together?
Yeah, I'm gonna say probably Guelph or somewhere, and went together.
What were the activities in the 1985 leadership camp?
You're talking with somebody with dementia here.
What made that camp exciting? What made it camp?
Well, definitely I remember, like, our closing ceremonies every night were just phenomenal. The closeness you did become with your clan, like, yeah. Our one, I can't remember the names they used, but they always had like a leader they picked out of your clan to become the leader, and then there was always like the vice. Do you remember do you know what they were called? Anyway, they picked one out of your clan to be your kind of leader. Well, she found out shortly after that, her name was Ellen, that she had cancer and she died, and that was quite a thing to take when you're our age, and she was the leader of our clan. She was from Grey County. I remember that well. But she was an inspirational person, and Russell Wilson was our second one, but like I've stayed in contact with Russell more or less. And Susan was in my clan, and obviously I met a lifelong friend. I think the closing ceremonies is where everybody shares and everybody lets a lot of their feelings out that, you know, they maybe kept and bottled up inside them for years and didn't share with anybody. And sometimes you were sharing things that you wouldn't share with your best friend or your family, and people became extremely close that way.
What were some of the traditions that occurred at leadership camp?
You should ask Susan, because I don't remember. My mind's blank. I just remember it being awesome and amazing, and I mean your typical, you know, apples off the table, and your typical learning experiences, and
Who was in charge?
it was totally different. Peter Fleming. Yeah, it was my, like the head guy at that time.
And what clan were you?
Scott? It was red. It was a Scott clan.
Do you remember
With Scotty McKay in it too. Yeah.
Do you remember what you did as a clan to stand out from the other clans?
Oh, we were just awesome. Oh.
Did you challenge any of the other clans? Okay.
I am gone.
And in the leadership in action, you mentioned it was more like the ALT program.
Yeah,
Was there a lot of agriculture into it?
Yeah, a little bit more, and it didn't have the clans, and it was more of a less of a camp and more of a leadership program.
But you were still camping.
Yes.
Who was in charge? And what activities were there?
Well, I totally remember the high ropes because that was. I remember who my roommates were. I can barely remember what I did yesterday.
Okay. We'll move on.
Sorry.
Going back to the
I remember people, not the events.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean?
Going back to a few board questions, what were some of the challenges that junior farmers faced?
Possible stereotypes. At that time, honestly, it wasn't too challenging because we were at a high. Like, our membership was high. Like, I look at some of the challenges we face with other organizations today, and through the 80s was really a good time. And I mean, if anything, it was probably our image because some people saw it as a drinking club, which it wasn't. We did so many good things, and sometimes it was hard to get past that. But it is the first time you're gonna drink it. Probably most people hit that age when they're, yeah. Going back to Waterloo for a moment, one thing I missed that we always did that was so much fun was the Elmira Maple Syrup Festival. We used to go in the pancake flipping contest against the media, and so that was always great because we built up a great media relationship with the radio stations, and yeah, it was really fun. Anyway.
Just going over the questions that you haven't answered. Some of the provincial projects. Mm-hmm. Can you talk about the ones that you remember?
If I had a list of them, I sure could talk about them.
Was there any provincial challenges put out to the clubs?
Every year they had challenges for different. Well, we always did the fundraising challenge, and there was always the charities we raised money for, and Children's Wish Foundation was one year. Seeing Eye Dogs.
How were they
Advanced
chosen?
Agricultural Leadership Program, I think, was once. The PDs would choose them.
The PDs?
I think so. Or was it the conference committee? I don't know. Don't take my word on it.
You said membership was at a high. How many members were there in the province at the time?
I think when I started there was probably about 8,000 or in around there.
And how much did membership cost?
I have no idea. I think it was free when I started. Or was it $25? I don't remember.
If I was to ask someone else about Janice Murray or Janice Kyle, what do you think they remember about you?
I'm not sure. That I like to have a good time. That I was involved. That I won a trip to the UK. I don't know.
And we've already answered the question about if you met someone significant in your life in Junior Farmers. Was there a certain event you met him at?
I first met him at a Hamilton Wentworth Junior Farmer dance. And that was the Boxing Day Boogie. So it was like Boxing Day, they had a dance. And it all came together. Well, I guess we spent March conference kind of hanging out and then started really dating at Culturama in April.
Okay, that'll lead me to my next question. What was Culturama?
Oh, Culturama was one of my favorite events. I'm sad that it's no longer there, to be honest. But I think you kind of have combined it with Sing Swing. We used to have both. Culturama was where they had plays and public speaking and any kind of Farmers Feud. They used to have anything cultural that wasn't musical. So they had I believe there was places where you could put in art and stuff like that. I was really involved with the plays, though. Was my big thing with them. We used to have so much fun doing the one-act plays every year.
And when were they held?
Culturama was held in April.
Okay. Just one day?
Yeah.
Was there PD training meetings going at the same time? Or?
Yeah, I think they used to have a PD meeting, of the new PDs coming in, the day before.
So now that Sing Swing and Culturama are combined, what was Sing Swing? What did Sing Swing include at that time?
Everything musical. So that was your square dancing, your singing, your piano playing. They had a gong show. That was always fun. Anything musical, anything. Those two events were really big. Well, Culturama was probably our smallest event, to be honest, even though I loved it so much. But Sing Swing was always huge. We used to have, 20 square dance sets competing against each other.
And then keeping with provincial events, what happened at March Conference?
March Conference was where everybody came together and had a conference, and we learned about what was going on, and we always had some really great keynote speakers and some workshops for the clubs to attend. You usually got chosen from your club to be able to go, and the words were announced. They used to have, maybe they still do, scrapbook competitions and communications competitions and stuff like that. That kind of thing would get announced. The trip winners would get announced. And it always ended with a formal banquet, which I know they still have. And yeah, they used to invite back past provincial presidents, which I think they still do. And yeah, it was the highlight of the year.
How did Junior Farmers change you as a person?
Oh, it changed everything about me. I wasn't going down the right roads that I should have been. And because these two people came and visited me in the hospital, I started going down the right road and met some fabulous people who've become lifelong friends, and met my husband, and just it changed everything about which way I went with my life. And I became active in my community and still am, extremely involved throughout the years in different things. It gave me the skills to be able to speak. It gave me the skills to be able to know what parliamentary procedure is. It changed everything, really. Yeah.
You've already touched on it, but I'll throw it out there again. What was the relationship like between the government and junior farmers?
It was really good at one point. And I mean, I don't know if they still get any funding from the government. That makes me sad. Anyway, it was excellent at one time. So at one time, each county had their own rural organization specialist. And so they would help the junior farmers organize their meetings and give like a professional help to us as an organization. And every county had their own OMAF office that we could have the meetings in, so that was never a struggle as to, they always had a boardroom, and we always had a place to have our meetings, and they always helped with, choosing things if we needed advice, or, yeah, it was good.
In your opinion, what is or what was the importance of junior farmers in Ontario?
I still think it's important. I think it's an important place for young people to meet and of like minds, because I mean, most, but not all, and that's okay, that's wonderful, but most have come from a rural background, and the rural areas are getting smaller and smaller. And so I know my kids who go to a high school in town, they sometimes find it hard to necessarily meet people that are like-minded, but they go to junior farmers and they meet people who have like minds, so they become their friends for life. They can relate to them. It's just a different kind of friendship for those young people, and it offers great activities for them to do, whether it be going to play a game. Like sometimes kids don't feel comfortable going out for their high school sports, but would still like to be able to play volleyball just to have fun, and they feel like they're more comfortable and they'd be able to do that. It gives them a good solid footing to be able to learn how to become involved with their communities.
What have you done since leaving junior farmers?
Since leaving junior farmers, I have worked, I've got married, had children, but in the community, it gave me the skills to become, I was president of the North Dumfries Resource Centre, I was president of the North Dumfries Preschool, I was president of the Glen Morris Parents Council. I've been involved with both Paris and Air Ringette on their boards. I became I was part of the Friends of Glen Morris fundraising committee for the Glen Morris Library. I have become involved in years on the Brant County 4-H executive, and now I'm on the provincial 4-H board. So those are just some of the things that I've done over the years, as far as it just gives you that oomph to want to help out.
If you could say something to a junior farmer member today, or members, what would you tell them?
You're doing the right thing. Just keep going. Be proud of what you're doing, and I'm proud of you for being involved and taking it, keeping junior farmers going. I think it's a great thing.
Let's hear some more stories. Let's hear some Waterloo stories. What kind of character was Craig Martin?
Craig's awesome. Very involved, very, everybody loved Craig. I mean, his bucks in a bug idea, his enthusiasm for life. One of the funnest times was when we went to Quebec, to the Quebec Winter Carnival. There was a group of us, and it was a long drive there and a long drive home for a weekend, but we certainly had a lot of fun. Between Menno's snoring and saying, they were getting me to say things in French that I don't know French, and they weren't necessarily appropriate things to say. Trisha Eckmeyer, who was the slowest eater and could always talk in anyone's ear off. Kevin Snyder, who always loves to tease everybody. Excellent memories from their days. Two houses that everybody used to congregate at. The first was the Pleasure Palace, which was Stomper, which is Ron Detweiler, but nobody knows him by Ron Detweiler. Stomper's place. They used to call it Stomper's Pleasure Palace. So that's Kathy and I lived with him in Winterburn. And so because the three of us lived together in a house, and many still lived with their parents, our place used to be the place to go and congregate. Before that, Kathy and I lived in a townhouse in Guelph. And this is the story. Kathy and Lori Livingston and I went to the UK for 3 weeks in '89 together to visit some past delegates. And they decided that they needed to play a prank on us. So they took all of our furniture out of our house and put it on our roof. I came home to that. Yeah. And then, no, that's not true. They did that, but then they took pictures of it and made a booklet, and then they put it all back in. Like, it's not like they left it out there, but they literally did it just to take pictures.
Was there ever the mystery bus tour still going?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. I even helped organize one year. That was the year that we went to Niagara Falls. And, that was always fun. That year, I was the organizer, so I was supposed to be doing all the talking, but I happened to take a can of pop, and there was a bee on it, or a wasp or something, and I took a drink, so then I got stung in the mouth, so I couldn't talk all weekend, so that was kind of fun. That's when they came up with Kevin Snyder came up, my name was a jungle theme, and so my name is Janice, so then it got to be Jungle Janice, which has been now shortened to JJ, so everybody in Waterloo Junior Farmers calls me JJ. So I still get that today.
Can you describe what the mystery bus tour was?
So people would pay money to know that they were going on a bus tour for a weekend, but they didn't know where. And so we all would get in a bus and we would just drive to wherever. And that year it happened to be Niagara Falls. We've done Ottawa, I'm trying to think of some other places, but it was always a fantastic time. And so you would get on, and all of your meals and accommodations and everything were paid for the weekend. And but nobody knew what the next thing is that you were going to be doing. So it was really a great time.
And it was a Waterloo event.
Yeah. Yeah.
Any other stories? And anything that we talked about before we started the interview that I forgot to ask about?
No. Not off the top of my head.
Okay.
I mean, fantastic memories, fantastic people. Wouldn't change it a thing about it. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome.